So at the very beginning of the novel, this is right before the table of contents, you have 3 different epigraphs, and this is the most important one. So it's a quote from the Bible, and this quote is the basis for the entire society of Gilead. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and said unto Jacob, Give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, Am I in God's stead, who hath withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. So what is the meaning of this quote exactly? And the story behind this epigraph is that Jacob had 2 wives. First of all, he married Leah. He didn't truly love Leah. The person that he truly loved was Rachel, who was her sister. Now, in the end, he was able to marry Rachel. Now, Leah had given him several children, but he really wanted to have a child with Rachel, and Rachel, unfortunately, was unable to become pregnant. She desperately wanted to give her husband a child. So she said to Jacob, We have a maid, her name is Bilhah. It's okay if you lie with her, and then when she has a child, we will raise that child as our own. So this explains the role of the handmaid in society. The handmaid bears the child, but then it's the commander and the wife who will raise that child as their own. And it also gives us the source of the name for the Rachel and Leah Center, which is where the handmaids are trained. So the significance of this story for Gilead is that it's very important for a woman to marry. It's important for her to bear children. They have very, very conservative values, and there are very strict gender roles that have to be followed. So for them, fertility is extremely important. And in this society, as I mentioned earlier, fertility is something that has decreased quite a bit. So it's very rare these days for a woman to be able to actually have a child. And also, this is a story that is very difficult to disagree with. Okay, this concept is difficult to disagree with because it comes directly from the Bible. And since it's a very religious society, you cannot contradict what is in the Bible, because what is in the Bible comes directly from God. And also, as we mentioned, as one of the characteristics for a dystopian world, there's a lack of freedom of thought and a lack of freedom of speech. So you cannot openly contradict whatever is in the Bible. And all of this, the entire society, we see that there's a return to the values that were held dear in the past. It's a very traditional, very conservative society. So for chapter 1, called Night, we have one very important word here, and that is palimpsest, which is in this sentence. Dances would have been held there. The music lingered, a palimpsest of unheard sound, style upon style, an undercurrent of drums, a forlorn wail, garlands made of tissue paper flowers, cardboard devils, powdering the dancers with a snow of light. So we know that the protagonist is in a gymnasium, and we know that she talks about things that happened there in the past, right? The dances, places that the students went to watch sports, to have different activities. And things are no longer like that. There has been a change in society. And palimpsest, the definition, is a medieval parchment that scribes attempted to scrape clean and use again, though they were unable to obliterate all traces of the original. And this is what happens in society. So you have this new society, Gilead, trying to bring forth its new values based on the Bible, but the old society is still present. It hasn't been completely eradicated. They're trying very hard to eradicate all traces of that society, but it's not possible to do that. People, for example, will still have memories of the way that things were in the past, and that's something that cannot be changed. So the past will always be there, even in the present. So what do we know about the narrator's situation? We have a few quotes here. We had flannelette sheets like children's and army issue blankets, old ones that still said US. So when they say that still said US, that tells us right away that something has changed. The United States as we know it no longer exists. It's also significant that they use the word children's, and we will see this word being used over and over and over again in relation to women, because women are treated like children in this society. They're not independent. They have to rely on men. It's a very traditional society with very strict gender roles. And then they say Aunt Sarah and Aunt Elizabeth patrolled. They had electric cattle prods. So again, we know that these ladies are in a very unsafe environment. So we wonder, why is it that these other women have cattle prods? What was the narrative doing in the gymnasium? What's happening? We know that there's been a change, but we don't quite know what's happening yet. And also they say guns were for the guards, specially picked from the angels. They do mention that the aunts, Sarah and Elizabeth, they have electric cattle prods, but they're not allowed to have guns. So again, only the men would be allowed to have these types of weapons, and not the women. And then we have another line, fence topped with barbed wire, which gives us a very prison-like feeling. So the women are indeed being kept in a type of prison. They're under guard, and they are not able to leave that environment. So chapter 2. So now we see Offred in her new environment, her new home. And right away we have the sentence, they've removed anything you could tie a rope to. And also, when the window is partly open, it only opens partly. So again, in the next few pages, there are also more hints about how anything that could possibly be used to commit suicide has been removed from the home. And again, that makes you wonder, well, why would they do this? Is the handmaid's role so bad? Are so many of them committing suicide? What is happening? So we're really beginning to question the type of environment that she is living in. There's also the quote, waste not, want not. I am not being wasted, so why do I want? So Margaret Atwood has a lot of plays on words. This is one example of it. So waste not, want not, we're quite familiar with that particular expression. I am not being wasted. So here Offred is referring to her role as a handmaid. She is being useful to society. She had a child in the past, perhaps she can have another one. And then she asks, why do I want? Meaning that she is not satisfied with this role. This is a role that has been given to her, it has been imposed on her, and she does not feel comfortable with it. She wants something else. She wants a new life. And then we're given a look at the type of clothing that the handmaids wear. And then she says, everything except the wings around my face is red, the color of blood, which defines us. So the handmaids wear these long gowns, they wear gloves, they wear shoes, everything is red, except of course for the wings around their heads, those are white. And she says, I never look good in red, it's not my color. So when she says that, it's a rejection of her role as a handmaid. She refuses to accept this role. It's been imposed on her, she does not want it. And we will see red being used over and over and over again in the novel. So red is a very powerful symbol. It symbolizes a number of things. It symbolizes fertility, and that of course is what the handmaid is designed to do, to bear children. It suggests the blood of the menstrual cycle, and of course it suggests childbirth. It also has a connotation with passion and also with violence, but I'll discuss that a little bit more later. And there will also be a handout on Leah with more information about the different colors and what they symbolize. On page 12, we have the use of the word sororize, which is quite interesting. So in English, we have the word fraternize, and that means to behave like a brother. She says, Luke told me that. So Luke is her husband. He said there was no corresponding word that meant to behave like a sister. Sororize, it would have been, he said, from the Latin. And this is indicative of another theme in the novel. The fact that women are unable to form bonds with one another. There is no sisterhood. So women exist in different categories. They relate to each other, but there's a lot of antagonism and a lot of animosity between these different groups. There's no real friendship. And society is designed this way. It does not want women to form a sisterhood, to form friendships, to form alliances. It wants to keep them divided. And examples of this are when the handmaids walk 2 by 2. Every handmaid has a partner. She never goes out alone. But this isn't for companionship. It's not so that she can have a friend to talk to. It's so that one can keep tabs on the other. So one is always a spy for the other. And then also there's a lot of resentment between the Marthas and the handmaids. So the Marthas have the impression sometimes that the handmaids have it easy. They don't work very hard. They're just there to bear a child. From the handmaid's point of view, well, the Marthas have it a little bit easier because they work harder, but they don't have that intense pressure to be in this situation where they must have a sexual relationship with someone that they have no connection to. And so there's a lot of antagonism there as well. You will see a lot of neologisms throughout the novel. So a neologism is a new word that has been invented. So you will have the word unwomen. The unwomen are women who no longer have any useful role in society. They can't be handmaids, they can't be Marthas, often they are older, or they might be political dissidents, and they are cast out of society. An unbaby, that's the word that they use for a baby that is born, but it's not a viable child. They would call it a shredder as well. So a baby that will not be able to survive because, again, the fertility rate is low. They might be giving birth to children, but often those children are not viable. A keeper is a child that you can keep. It's healthy, it's going to grow up. The birthmobile, that is the car that they have to take the handmaids to the different houses when another handmaid happens to be giving birth. A gender traitor is a homosexual, which is a crime in this society. The female road, that is a play on words. We had the Underground Railroad. And the female road is a way for women to escape Gilead. Salvagings are executions. A praevaganza is a very large, like an auditorium where the wives and the daughters can go, the handmaids as well, and they have lots of prayers that take place in it, like a bit like a mass. And a participation, that is an execution that people participate in. And there are many, many more neologisms throughout the novel. These are just some of the more common examples. If there's some words that you see that you don't know the meaning of, or certain expressions or quotes from the Bible, etc., and you're not clear about what they mean, you can always click on this link and you're probably going to find it there. There's a very long list with some good explanations.